The cosmos is void of the music of the stars. The cosmos is filled with silence, total, absolute silence. Nothing can be heard, and yet everything is constantly happening. Galaxies, nebulae, stars, planets, constellations, giant stars, dwarf stars, supernovae, black holes, quasars. But the eternal expansion of the universe and its unknown dark matter plays an infinite chord of silence. And yet we are made of what exists out there. When all's said and done, whether you like it or not, we are helium, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, silicon, or gold. The stars churn out an endless stream of water, fire and air, energy that is matter and matter that is energy, time and space which are also one and the same thing. The stars tell the leaf to turn into a tree, food, life, and finally a being, in a surprisingly perfect chain of life and death. A wonderful ritual that dies and is reborn, and then transformed by will of an absolute being into new energy, that is, into our very selves. This cosmos engineering perfection gave rise to man on Earth. From a constantly moving nucleus, from a source of energy, ATP, received or produced by itself, grows into 10 billion cells. It is born, multiplies, is renewed and dies. Hair is the starting point of human geography. This is not an affirmation of the obvious, since research into this wonderful explicit cosmos delves deeper than its aesthetics and appearance, which are often the victims of ill treatment that leaves no chance of redemption. Yet hair, apart from containing our genetic map, is an element that is exclusive to mammals and one that fulfills certain functions. When temperatures fall, mammals have to prevent the loss of heat. This is why their bodies are covered in hair. The length, distribution and color of the hair varies depending on the species. There is sound reasoning behind the coloring too. Often the color of a mammal blends in with its surroundings, providing camouflage and protection from predators. At other times, however, there is a great chromatic contrast, favoring visual communication and providing information on the identity of the species, the sex, age and the hierarchic or social status of an individual. There are even mammals that have long, rigid hairs on their head, equipped with nerve endings. Man may sit upon the summit of the scale of evolution, yet he remains a mammal. So let's take a look at the role that hair has played throughout history. The Egyptians were the first civilization that paid special attention to their hair. All social groups wore wigs, possibly to protect themselves from the rays of the sun, or to replace their own natural hair, which had been shorn off to remove parasites. Baldness for the Egyptians was a dilemma. In fact, when the tomb of King Cheetah's mother was discovered, evidence was found to suggest that even in the year 4000 BC, attempts had been made to solve their hair loss. The ancient Greek men and women continued this trend and liked to cover their heads with blonde wigs to make them feel more attractive. The Romans regarded hair as a symbol of great social power. Flocking locks and beards both represented social prestige. Julius Caesar himself asked the Senate for permission to wear a crown of laurels to hide his baldness. In the Middle Ages, long hair was seen as a sign of strength and vigor in the knights that wore their hair in this way. This is best illustrated through the famous fable of Rapunzel, who, trapped in a tower, manages to escape by letting a prince climb up her locks. Nowadays, the aesthetic function of hair plays a big part in our society. The style, cut, color and and size all combine to influence an individual's social relationships. Hair problems, from the slight to the more grave, can seriously affect personal and social relationships for those that suffer from them. Such are these effects that they can lead to psychological problems that can hinder the individual's normal development. Hair which protrudes from the skin in a filament-like fashion is found all over the body and goes by many different names depending on its shape and location. Hair on the head comprises a series of chemical elements, the most important of which are carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, hydrogen and sulfur. We also find, though in lesser quantities, calcium, copper, cadmium, mercury, zinc, lead, iron, arsenic, silicon, magnesium, uranium, vanadium, sodium and potassium. It is vital to understand that these elements lead to the creation of molecules which go by the name of proteins. The hair protein is called keratin. Keratin, like all proteins, comprises chains of amino acids. The most important of these are the sulfur ones, cysteine and methionine. Hair comprises two fundamental parts, the root and the shaft. The root is the part where a lot of metabolic and mitotic activity take place. The bulb at the root end accommodates the dermal papilla in its center. The dermal papilla in turn carries the blood flow and the hair nutrients. The shaft is the visible part of the hair and comprises three concentric cellular layers, the medulla, middle cortex and the cuticle. The medulla is the internal part of the shaft. It has a honeycomb shape and is made of rounded corneous cells which do not have a nucleus. The middle cortex separates the medulla and the cuticle. Formed by cellular layers, it is responsible for the strength, flexibility and elasticity of the hair. The cuticle is the external layer. It comprises flat cells that superimpose one another all along the shaft of the hair. It is responsible for protecting the hair against external physical and chemical forces. From the moment it is born until the moment it dies, the hair passes through a series of cycles and stages. These stages are known as anagen, catagen and telogen. The anagen stage is the active phase of hair growth. It lasts between 3 and 6 years, and during this time, the germinal matrix cells actively divide, causing the hair to grow. At any one time, approximately 85% of our hair is at this stage. The catagen stage may be thought of as the dormant phase. The hair stops growing and there is little cellular activity. The bulb changes shape in its rounded base and simultaneously shifts towards the base of the piloerector muscle, where it remains for 3 weeks to a month. The final stage, or the telogen phase, is the one that determines the death of the hair. Its percentage does not exceed 14%, and this stage only lasts around 3 weeks. Now that we know more about the makeup of the hair, let's take a look at the main problems that affect it. Alopecia or hair loss. The different kinds of alopecia can be caused by an individual's internal or external factors. Although there are different kinds of alopecia, they can all be incorporated into 3 large groups: areatus, diffuse and androgenetic. The areatus group, or bald patches, is quite a common cause of hair loss. This group affects approximately 1% of the general population at some point in their lives. They are almost always caused by nervous factors such as stress, depression or anxiety. To a lesser extent, they can be occasioned by viral processes, oral infections that may be mucus infections or dental decay, and thyroid problems. Diffuse hair loss is a pattern that is difficult to detect in a short space of time. What can be said is that the amount of hair that falls out exceeds the amount of hair that grows. Once it has been detected, hair loss is already apparent. The diffuse group of alopecias includes post-traumatic, postpartum, post-febrile or infectious, as well as cicatricial and those caused by the menopause. Post-traumatic alopecia can come about as a result of surgery, blows to the head, caps, veils or objects that permanently chafe. Chemical products that irritate or modify the scalp can also cause these alopecias. Hairstyles that incorporate buns, pigtails, braiding or any other kind that mainly affects the frontoparietal zone can also give rise to this kind of alopecia. The postpartum alopecias, or those that are linked to the menopause, occur because of estrogen factors, female hormone, serious lack of vitamins, hypovitaminosis and a shortage of trace elements such as iron, calcium and magnesium. Hair loss occurs 2 to 3 months following the birth. Unless special care is taken, this type of alopecia can be irreversible. Post-febrile or infectious hair loss is a result of an infectious process such as syphilis or amygdalitis. This can also happen when an individual has a temperature in excess of 39 degrees for longer than a fortnight. In this latter case, hair loss commences approximately 2 months afterwards. However, providing due care is taken, this fallout is usually temporary. Cicatricial hair loss is due to the destruction of the hair follicles. This kind of alopecia is generally irreversible and may be caused by skin infections, burns, accidental destruction or cutting of the epidermis, and so on. Finally, if we return to the 3 alopecia groups, we find the androgenetic alopecia. Approximately 85% of men suffer from this type of alopecia. The reason behind it is the coincidence of the T-testosterone and the 5-alpha reductase enzyme, which give rise to the DHT hormone. This hormone is very damaging for the hair since it causes the sebaceous glands to become inflamed and a progressive miniaturization of the bulbs at every growth cycle. The end result is the inevitable healing over of the follicle pore, completely preventing hair regeneration. The root causes lie in genetic hereditary factors, hormonal imbalance, changes in the nervous system, and above all, as we have already seen, the action of DHT on the hair follicle receptors. Seborrhea or grease. Sebum, a sebaceous gland secretion, constitutes the greater part of what we call the peripheral lipid layer. When the sebaceous gland produces an excess of sebum, this hypersecretion is seborrhea. In more simple terms, seborrhea is produced when the sebaceous glands produce more sebum than normal. Wondersaf has classified 4 kinds of different seborrhea. Seborrhea dermatitis, dry skin, greasy bulb. Seborrhea on 2 layers, dry skin, greasy bulb, fallout. Seborrhea on 4 layers, greasy skin, greasy bulb. Apparent seborrhea, greasy skin, dystrophic bulb. Other malfunctions exist which can lead to confusion when identifying the types of seborrhea. These are called bromidosis and hyperhidrosis. Bromidosis occurs when the sebaceous gland and the apocrine sweat gland secrete a greater quantity than they should. This action slowly asphyxiates the bulb. Hyperhidrosis is the excess of sweat from the eccrine sweat gland. Let's be clear about one thing. The root cause of 90% of alopecias is grease. Flaking processes. Although we cannot see it, the skin is constantly renewing itself. As soon as we notice an excess of flaking cells, we are doubtless faced with a scaling process. There are different classes of flaking processes. Here we shall deal with the most common: pityriasis, simplex capitis or dry dandruff. The flakes have a whitish ash appearance, are easily loosened and adhere to the hair shaft. The scalp is broken and shiny. There are various reasons for this, but in the main, this flaking process is linked to nervous problems, although the lack of vitamin A, unsuitable shampoos, inadequate water intake and washing hair with water above 37 degrees can also produce pityriasis simplex capitis. Pityriasis stetoid or greasy dandruff. The combination of an excess of grease secretion and the presence of a yeast, Pityrosporum ovale, on the scalp leads to the production of a yellowish gold flake, which is very adherent and difficult to loosen. It also causes inflammation, reddening and itching. We must take in account that the edges of these flakes are very well delimited. This will help us to tell the differences between pityriasis stenoid and dermatitis. As with the previous process, the causes are wide and include changes to the nervous system, an abnormal percentage of pityrosporum ovale, immunological alterations, inadequate diets, sebaceous hypersecretion, very high water temperature and unsuitable shampoos. Seborrheic dermatitis. The first thing we have to be aware of here is that there is no cure for this problem. We can never ever say that we can cure dermatitis. We can look to temper it, soothe it or cleanse it, but never cure it. Dermatitis falls into a pathological group of unknown origin and as such has no solution. It is characterized by badly delimited reddish patches with greasy adherent scales and irritation with an excess of sweat. Possible causes include the decomposition of the sebum. It usually occurs in persons with emotional disturbances, but there are also hormonal, dietary and congenital factors. Psoriasis. Like dermatitis, psoriasis is a generally chronic dermatosis. The symptoms are a thickening of the epidermis with adherent, silvery-colored flakes that are very well delimited. The nails are stippled like thimbles. It affects both men and women, and like dermatitis, there are times when it improves and other times when it gets worse. The dry seasons usually cause a worsening of this condition. Although the causes remain unknown, it usually appears in persons that suffer from nervous disorders, infectious processes and chronic alcoholism. It is also linked to certain medications and drugs. It's possible that it has a genetic base, and it's not unusual to find a family history of this problem. As we've seen, all of us, in one or another, are exposed to the problems of the multiple and complex hair malfunctions. However, thanks to the innovative experience of WonderSaf, many of these conditions can be solved. For more than 11 years now, WonderSaf SA has been working with complete scientific vocation with offices in Spain, Portugal, Taiwan, Russia, Brazil, the United States and Canada. WonderSaf has become a pioneering company in the search for a solution to hair loss. Thanks to the revolutionary working methods developed by its scientists over this period and to the active ingredients and nutrients processed through their laboratories, WonderSaf can guarantee that hair regrowth is possible wherever there is the slightest possibility of microcellular life. WonderSaf has treatments and products that are suitable for each one of the hair problems mentioned earlier. The first thing to do prior to preparing a hair treatment is to diagnose the problem correctly. When a person is being examined, it is important to be able to understand and express what is observed on the scalp, the hair fiber, and finally the bulb. It is also important to point out that depending on the existing problems, the hair treatments will work either on an internal level, where the action zones are the follicle pouch, the bulb, sebaceous glands, sweat glands, both eccrine as well as apocrine, or an external level, where the treatments act on the skin, the scalp and the hair fiber. Areatus alopecias. Prepare the scalp by applying dermocapillary mask previously blended with Herbie and apply as if it were a dye. Leave on for 20 minutes. Do this once a week with the head dirty. Wash alternately with Placent shampoo and Royal Jelly shampoo 3 times a week. Apply Wondersil Science 6 directly to the affected area twice a day for 90 days. Post-traumatic diffuse alopecias. Prepare the scalp by applying dermocapillary mask previously blended with Herbie and apply as if it were a dye. Leave on for 20 minutes. Do this once a week with the head dirty. Wash hair a minimum of 3 times a week, alternating between Placent shampoo and Royal Jelly shampoo. After washing, apply trichopeptides plus placenta shock every day for 90 days. Postpartum and menopausal diffuse alopecias. Prepare the scalp by applying dermocapillary mask previously blended with Herbie and apply as if it were a dye. Leave on for 20 minutes. Do this once a week with the head dirty. Wash hair a minimum of 3 times a week, alternating between Placent shampoo and royal jelly. Apply half ampoule of Wondersil every day for 90 days. Post-febrile or infectious diffuse alopecias. Prepare the scalp by applying dermocapillary mask previously blended with Herbie and apply as if it were a dye. Leave on for 20 minutes. Do this once a week with the head dirty. Wash hair a minimum of 3 times a week, alternating between Placent shampoo and royal jelly shampoo. Apply a 1/3 ampoule of Wondersil Dixie Dox Fort every day for 90 days. Androgenetic alopecias. Androgenetic alopecias require variable treatment depending on progress. The maximum duration is 4 stages divided up over 10 months. Throughout the treatment we shall employ the dermocapillary mask and alternate between Opar and Placent shampoos in the everyday morning wash. First stage. After washing, apply Wondersil Fresh Cells every day for 90 days. Second stage. After 90 days, stop using Wondersil Fresh Cells and apply Wondersil Science 6 twice a day for 60 days. Third stage. After 60 days, stop using Wondersil Science 6 and apply half ampoule of Wondersil Dixie Dox every day for a further 60 days. Fourth stage. We finish off the treatment by applying DNA plus pollen twice a day for 90 consecutive days. Seborrhea or grease. To be able to carry out successful treatment, we must be able to identify and later classify the grease correctly. Wondersaf Simone has forged ahead and has classified 4 different types of seborrhea. Real seborrhea. Prepare the scalp by applying dermocapillary mask previously blended with Herbie and apply as if it were a dye. Leave on for 20 minutes. Do this once a week with the head dirty. Wash a minimum of 3 times a week, alternating between Opar shampoos for dry hair and normal hair. Apply regenerative lotion every day for 90 days. Seborrhea on 2 layers. Prepare the scalp by applying dermocapillary mask previously blended with Herbie and apply as if it were a dye. Leave on for 20 minutes. Do this once a week with the head dirty. Wash a minimum of 3 times a week, alternating between Opar shampoos for dry hair and normal hair. Apply ADN plus pollen every day for 90 days. Seborrhea on 4 layers. Prepare the scalp by applying dermocapillary mask previously blended with Herbie and apply as if it were a dye. Leave on for 20 minutes. Do this once a week with the head dirty. Wash a minimum of 3 times a week, alternating between Merino Astringent shampoo and Placent shampoo. Apply Natural Astringent 12 herb lotion 3 times a week for 90 consecutive days. Apparent seborrhea. Prepare the scalp by applying dermocapillary mask previously blended with Herbie and apply as if it were a dye. Leave on for 20 minutes. Do this once a week with the head dirty. Wash a minimum of 3 times a week, alternating between Merino Astringent shampoo and Placent shampoo. Apply Wondersil Science 6 every day for 90 consecutive days. Also, wash the head in the mornings with warm water, no hotter than 37 degrees. Pityriasis simplex capitis or dry dandruff. Prepare the scalp by applying dermocapillary mask previously blended with Herbie and apply as if it were a dye. Leave on for 20 minutes. Do this once a week with the head dirty. Wash a minimum of 3 times a week with anti-dandruff shampoo, alternating between shampoos for dry and normal hair. Alternate between Merino Anti-Druff and Herbie, a minimum of 3 times a week for 90 consecutive days. pityriasis, stetoid or greasy dandruff. Prepare the scalp by applying dermocapillary mask previously blended with Herbie and apply as if it were a dye. Leave on for 20 minutes. Do this once a week with the head dirty. Wash a minimum of 3 times a week, alternating between astringent shampoo and pleasant shampoo. Alternate the application of merino astringent with natural astringent 12 herbs and apply a minimum of 3 times a week for 90 consecutive days. Seborrhea dermatitis. Prepare the scalp by applying dermocapillary mask previously blended with Herbie and apply as if it were a dye. Leave on for 20 minutes. Do this once a week with the head dirty. Wash a minimum of 3 times a week, alternating between astringent shampoo and pleasant shampoo. Alternate the application of merino anti-dandruff lotion with natural astringent 12 herbs 3 times a week. Dry and apply red cream to the affected areas daily. Psoriasis. Prepare the scalp by applying dermocapillary mask previously blended with Herbie and apply as if it were a dye. Leave on for 20 minutes. Do this once a week with the head dirty. Wash a minimum of 3 times a week with anti-dandruff shampoo, alternating between shampoos for dry and normal hair. Apply merino anti-dandruff 4 times a week to the affected areas. Dry and apply Soriac Simone cream every day to the affected areas. Now that we've seen the different treatments available for each hair and scalp problem, and we know how best to apply each one of the products to attain the best results, let's take a look at some pictures of Wondersaf patients at the different authorized centers around the world. Surprising, isn't it? Well, this is what Wondersaf has achieved thanks to the research carried out over the years. Trust the experience and innovation of Wondersaf by Simone.